Hello and welcome to Restore 2023, an opportunity for us to be reading together God's Word, to be growing in our knowledge of Him, and to be living for Him. Today we are in Hebrews chapter 9, and the author is focused to talk about the greatness of Jesus and what He has done for men. Throughout the whole epistle, He's brought the reader's attentions onto how the Jewish institutions foreshadowed and pointed to the work of Christ. And the same thing is happening in the opening verses of chapter 9, where the author draws out detailed parallels and contrasts between the old Levitical ritual and the priestly work of Christ. Remember the two themes? Jesus, Son of God, Jesus, the high priest. And here he describes the physical setting of the tabernacle, verses 1 to 5, the sacrificial ritual associated with it, verses 6 to 10. But he is doing this by drawing from the book of Exodus and Leviticus. And once the historical picture is painted, then he moves on to what Jesus has accomplished. Jesus has entered the most holy place once and for all by his own blood. So then he can obtain eternal redemption. That's what it says in verse 12. And one of the commentators puts it this way: although the work of Christ corresponds in considerable detail to that of the Levitical priesthood, it stands in contrast to the work of the latter as its ultimate counterpart. Because the work of Christ is final, is absolute, is definitive, complete, and perfect. Then the author turns to the relationship between the sacrificial death of Christ and the establishment of the new covenant. The new covenant exists and is experienced by Christians by solely dependent on the sacrifice. The shedding of the blood is thus essential to both the old and the new covenant. And as we approach the end of the chapter, there is a deliberate repetition. If you were to compare, for example, verses 24 with the previous verse 11 and verses 25 and 26 with the previous verse 12. And once again, it highlights their importance to the author. The Old Covenant and its ordinances, including the Day of Atonement, were not designed to bring people fully into God's presence. But what Christ has already done once and for all, he's accomplished that. And what is to occur is Christ's second appearance. And this will not deal with sin anymore, but will finalize the salvation experienced by those who have received the good news and are waiting for his return.